To some, he was just another drifter moving through the back roads of the American Northeast. To others, he would become known by a far more chilling nickname, Mr. Meat. This is the story of a man whose crimes blurred the line between brutality and urban legend, and forced investigators to confront a nightmare they never expected to be real. Joe Metheny was born on March 2, 1955 in Baltimore, Maryland. His childhood was marked by instability and loss. His father died when he was young, an event Metheny later claimed affected him deeply. Raised primarily by his mother, he struggled with discipline, anger, and authority from an early age. As a teenager, he spiraled into drug and alcohol use, which developed into a significant substance abuse problem by adulthood. Those who knew him described him as volatile, unpredictable, and prone to violent outbursts. He eventually joined the Army, but his service didn't provide the structure he needed. After returning to Maryland, he found himself without direction. He drifted between jobs, relationships, and addresses, always hovering on the fringes of society in the Baltimore area. By the early 1990s, Metheny's life was completely off the rails. He was deeply enmeshed with other transient individuals, battling addiction, and festering with resentment over a failed relationship. In 1994, after his girlfriend left him and took their child, Metheny became obsessed with finding her. He believed she was staying in a homeless encampment under a bridge near the Patapsco River. Fueled by rage and drugs, he armed himself with an axe and went looking for her. She wasn't there, but others were. In a horrifying act of misplaced vengeance, Metheny murdered 2 homeless individuals he believed had lied to him about her whereabouts. Those killings, he would later claim, were just the beginning. Over the next 2 years, Metheny preyed on vulnerable women, many of them sex workers struggling with addiction. He lured them with promises of drugs or money. Once alone, he attacked them, strangling or beating them to death. Initially, Metheny claimed his violence was a twisted form of revenge against a former partner. However, investigators soon uncovered a far more disturbing truth. His victims weren't connected to any personal vendetta. Instead, they were vulnerable people, often those experiencing homelessness or addiction individuals whose absence might go unnoticed. Between 1994 and 1996, a series of disappearances in the Baltimore area started to raise alarm. The grim reality was that a predator was moving among them, and his name was Joe Metheny. He eventually confessed to multiple killings, though the full extent of his crimes remains a dark and contested mystery. Authorities could only officially confirm 2 murders, for which he was ultimately convicted. During interrogations, Metheny described luring his victims to secluded areas. Statements were often theatrical and deeply disturbing, but it was what he said he did after the murders that cemented his infamous nickname. After his arrest, Metheny claimed that he had dismembered some of his victims and mixed their flesh with pork and beef, selling it as barbecue from a roadside food stand. According to his confession, he believed the meat was indistinguishable once mixed and seasoned. Put the meat in some Tupperware bowls and then put it in the freezer, he reportedly said. The human body tastes very similar to pork, making it a challenge for investigators to separate grim fact from grandiose exaggeration. The moniker Mr. Meat emerged from sensational media coverage after Metheny made a series of shocking, gruesome claims about what he did after some of the killings. It's crucial to note that these more extreme claims were never proven in court. Prosecutors, focused on what they could substantiate with hard evidence, built their case around the confirmed crimes. While the most horrific elements of his confessions cemented his place in public lore, they weren't all legally validated. Nevertheless, the case seized national attention. The idea that someone could commit such unspeakable acts while blending into the fabric of everyday life sent a chill through communities across Maryland and beyond. The fear was palpable. How could this happen? The beginning of the end for Metheny came in 1996. A woman he had abducted managed a heroic escape and immediately reported him to the authorities. Her brave testimony was the critical piece that led to his arrest and finally put a stop to his reign of terror. In 1998, Joe Metheny was convicted of 2 murders and sentenced to death. However, this sentence was later reduced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Throughout the court proceedings, he showed little, if any, remorse. In fact, at his sentencing, he made chilling remarks that only amplified his notoriety in the media, ensuring his image as a monster was permanently etched in the public consciousness. He was incarcerated at the Western Correctional Institution in Cumberland, Maryland, where he would spend the rest of his days. On August 5, 2017, prison officials discovered Joe Metheny dead in his cell. He was 62 years old. The official cause of death was reported as natural causes. With his death, many questions died with him. Some of his most disturbing confessions could never be fully verified, leaving a permanent cloud of uncertainty over the true number of his victims. For the families of missing persons in the area, this meant a painful lack of closure, left forever wondering if their loved ones were among his unproven claims. The story of Joe Metheny remains one of the most unsettling criminal cases in Maryland's history. What's haunting not just because of the crimes he was convicted of, but because of the terrifying claims that blurred the line between documented fact and horrifying possibility. His case also casts a harsh light on a tragic reality. Many of his victims were individuals living on society's margins. Their precarious positions meant their disappearances initially drew little attention, allowing a predator to operate in the shadows. In the end, Joe Metheny's name became synonymous with pure brutality. But beyond the lurid headlines and sensationalism lies a sobering truth. Real lives were lost, real families were devastated, and a community was forced to confront the chilling darkness that can exist right in plain sight. This has been the story of Joseph Roy Metheny, a man whose crimes ensured he would be remembered not for who he was, but for the fear he left behind. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into complex cases. We'll see you in the next video.